Currently, Iran is executing many people to tighten control and create a reign of terror, seemingly aiming to mobilize the population as a guerrilla force. Let's examine this issue today. Let's take a look right away. Currently, inside Iran, the reign of terror has reached a very serious level. According to Amnesty International, in 2025, there were a total of 2,707 confirmed executions worldwide. It was the highest number in 44 years. Since countries like China don't share statistics, the real figure is likely even higher. But the most shocking country here is Iran. In Iran alone, at least 2,159 people were executed. In 2025, Iran accounted for most of the official executions worldwide. This is more than double the number from the previous year. Even in Iran's history, this is a very unusual level. There is even analysis that the pace of executions has accelerated in 2026. The problem is that the range of people being executed continues to expand. Executions used to target violent crimes or drug offenses, but now political charges are much more common. People are being arrested simply for joining anti-government protests. There are even cases where people are sentenced to death just for being accused of having ties to the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. Even just claims of cooperating with the United States or Israel are enough to be charged with national security offenses. International human rights groups say fair trial procedures are not being ensured in this process. Ongoing issues include limited lawyer access, closed trials, and coercive investigations. Notably, Iranian domestic media repeatedly air these scenes. State-run broadcasters and pro-government media are widely reporting on espionage charges and executions, emphasizing a hardline response against dissident groups. This is being interpreted as a move to instill fear among the public and suppress internal dissent. In Iran, a wartime atmosphere and politics of fear are both rising. Amnesty International criticized Iranian authorities for using the death penalty as a weapon. They use the death penalty to intimidate society by sentencing people to death after unfair trials and punishing anyone who has challenged or is seen as challenging the regime. Meanwhile, Iran now appears to be providing de facto armed training to its entire population. Recently, an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officer appeared on Iran's state TV, demonstrating in detail how to assemble and disassemble an AK-47 rifle, including attaching the magazine and checking the chamber. From the loading procedure to the aiming method, they broadcast content that was nearly identical to military training. The host of the program also showed himself actually holding and operating the rifle. What was even more shocking was that they displayed the UA flag on the screen and even showed aiming the rifle at it and pulling the trigger. It was not confirmed whether live ammunition was used, but the scene itself sparked significant controversy. That's not all. On another state-run TV channel, they placed a real PK machine gun on the studio table and explained how to load the machine gun ammunition and the procedures for preparing to fire. There was even a scene where a female anchor appeared live on air holding a rifle, declaring that she was ready to give her life for her country. The scene where she declared her loyalty after revealing that she had received a firearm at an anti-American rally is being considered quite unusual even within the Middle East. Currently, experts say these broadcasts amount to psychological warfare orchestrated by the Iranian government. They say that in a situation where the possibility of military pressure from the United States and Israel is being discussed, the government is strongly instilling a wartime atmosphere among its citizens. In particular, the fact that the state-run broadcaster is directly explaining how to use firearms is a very important point. This is also being interpreted as an intention to emphasize a system in which even civilians can be mobilized in the event of war. In fact, on social media inside Iran, there are even reactions suggesting that preparations for wartime mobilization may have already begun. Currently, Iran is simultaneously strengthening fear-based domestic rule and a wartime system, continuously raising the level of control over its citizens. Meanwhile, the shock of this war is spreading from the Middle East to the global economy, with over 1,500 ships now stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. This area was once a key global energy transport route. Before the war, over 130 ships and about 15 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz daily. Now, the situation is entirely different. Since the war, daily ship traffic has dropped to only 5 to 10 ships a day, effectively paralyzing normal maritime logistics. Meanwhile, Iran is showing even more shocking moves. Recently, Iran's Supreme National Security Council announced the establishment of a new organization called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority to directly manage the Strait of Hormuz. This is being interpreted as an intention to effectively bring international maritime routes under their own control. At the same time, Iran has launched a website called Hormuz Safe and announced that it has started providing maritime cargo insurance services for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. This is controversial because the insurance reportedly uses a Bitcoin-based payment system. The problem is the nature of this insurance. Currently, in the international community, some analysts are even saying this structure basically means if you buy the insurance, you won't be attacked. In other words, the very parties making the strait unstable are even selling insurance products to avoid that risk. In fact, in the West, there is criticism that this is essentially a kind of toll fee. It is known that Iran expects to earn about $10 billion a year or more than $14.9 trillion won a day through these services. Some analysts say that with Western sanctions and the prolonged war increasing economic pressure, Iran is trying to use control over the Strait of Hormuz itself as a new source of revenue. The problem is that there are warnings that a full-scale energy crisis could hit starting this summer because of this. Above all, it is estimated that daily oil consumption will exceed production by about 6 million barrels on average. Over 2 million barrels of strategic oil reserves are released daily, but much of this will stop by the end of July. Currently, global inventories have decreased by about 380 million barrels since the outbreak of the war. Fatih Birol, the executive director of the IEA, has even described this situation as the biggest energy security threat in history. He explained that releasing reserves only alleviates the pain, but it's not a solution. He said the real remedy is to open the Strait of Hormuz. So why is the Iranian regime acting so extremely? Iran faces serious internal issues and external war threats, with its economy worsening rapidly due to US pressure. Prices keep rising, and youth unemployment is reportedly at a serious level. On top of that, the value of the Iranian currency has been greatly shaken, leading to significant economic dissatisfaction among the people. In fact, within Iran, there have been constant complaints about the sharp rise in the prices of daily necessities, electricity shortages, and fuel crises. The rising anti-government sentiment among younger people is a major concern for the Iranian regime. In recent years, Iran has seen repeated anti-government protests driven by overlapping issues like women's rights, economic struggles, and religious control, fueling dissatisfaction with the regime. Many casualties occurred as security forces clashed with protesters, leading to arrests and harsh crackdowns. The Iranian government still strictly controls public criticism. Because of this, there is analysis that the current Iranian regime is trying to strengthen internal unity by continuously emphasizing external threats. They are highlighting the possibility of attacks from the United States and Israel, instilling a wartime atmosphere among the people and using this to maintain the regime. State-run broadcasts repeatedly airgun training, loyalty pledges, and stress strong responses to anti-government forces or suspected foreign troops with intelligence ties. Some see this as an effort to distract the public by focusing on external enemies during rising internal unrest. Iran is dealing with economic crisis, political instability, and war threats, causing the regime to tighten control. Additionally, analysis shows Russia and China are becoming more active, which is increasing the burden on the United States. As Russia and China are currently supporting Iran, the United States has highlighted sanctions against a total of 10 individuals and companies accused of helping supply weapon parts and raw materials used in Iran's drone and ballistic missile production. Several companies from mainland China and Hong Kong are also included. Because of this, the United States is not just dealing with Iran alone, but is now facing a vast sanctions evasion network connected to Russia at the same time. In fact, it is said that even within the United States, there are now assessments that Iran's economy is not as serious as expected. The initial US calculation that Iran would collapse under sanctions is starting to waver. Additionally, Iran keeps delaying negotiations. While the United States seeks a quick resolution, Iran is stalling to restore its missile capabilities and ramp drone production back up. From the US perspective, even though they are applying pressure, Iran is not collapsing completely and is actually managing to hold out. The problem is that the US midterm elections are just around the corner. If the blockade of the Hormuz Strait continues and the war doesn't end, the US could suffer a crushing defeat in the midterm elections. For President Trump, this would be nothing short of the worst-case scenario. On top of that, the damage caused by the blockade of the Hormuz Strait is likely to spread beyond Southeast Asia to other Asian and European countries as well. If this happens, there is a strong possibility that a global economic crisis could occur due to the blockade of the Hormuz Strait. Currently, Southeast Asian countries face an emergency due to lack of oil. Next year, a major famine could cause global food shortages.